Assalamualaikum. Hello, my name is Siti Mariam binti Aladdin. In today's slides, I'm going to discuss about how the dispersal of English language gave birth to one of the three varieties of English, which is Standard English, World English, and English as a lingua franca. So, before we dive into the three varieties of English, we must understand how it all started. How did English language dominate the world? There are two aspects of it, and that is the two dispersal or diasporas of English. The first diaspora is the migration of around 25,000 people from the south and east of England to North America and Australia, which resulted in the new mother tongue of varieties of English. The second diaspora, involving of the colonization of Asia and Africa, led by the British and the American, which resulted in the new varieties of English called New English. Perhaps this is best explained and represented in Kachru's three-circle model in the third slide. Braj Kachru, the Indian linguist, Kachru's proposed three-circle model helps to provide a much comprehensive perspective of how the variety of English we have today. The model starts with the inner circle, which represents the native English speakers, comprises of the United Kingdom, United States of America, Canada, Australia, and South Africa. The second circle, which is the outer circle, represents countries such as Hong Kong, India, Bangladesh, Malaysia, and many more. The third circle, which is the expanding circle, represents countries such as China, Egypt, Thailand, and many more. So, in Kachru's three-circle model, the five countries that represent the inner circle, we can therefore conclude them as those who uses English as a native language. They are born and raised in one of the countries where English is historically the first language to be spoken. The outer circle are those who uses English as a second language that covers the territories which were once colonized by the British and the Americans. The expanding circle are those who uses the English as a foreign language are basically those countries that were never colonized by neither the British nor the Americans. This language served little purpose within their own country. With the brief explanation on the dispersal of the English language, we can now define what Standard English is. By taking Kachru's model as an example in Jenkins' definition of Standard English, Jenkins draws the conclusion that Standard English refers to those who are brought up or grew up in one of the countries where English is traditionally the first language to be spoken. Thus, the inner circle represents the native English speakers, in which Jenkins adds are often regarded as a benchmark of correctness in education settings, as well as carrying the jurisdiction of the language. Tomokazu Ishikawa, who shares the same view as Jenkins, adds that what should not be ignored is the social identity in Standard English ideology, especially in terms of grammar. Therefore, it is clear to regard Standard English as the touchstone that is set by the native English speakers, which is generally covered by the initial five countries as per Kachru's inner circle. In other words, Standard English represents a meticulous way of learning the language, especially in the education field. Both Jenkins and Ishikawa's definition of Standard English are perhaps much better represented by James Milroy, who explains that Standard English is an assumption of a standard language culture, awareness that the language as a whole and with correct usage in the language, and this notion of correctness has a powerful role in the maintenance of the standard ideology through prescription. Thus, we can now illustrate how Kachru's three-circle model spreads the varieties of English, such as World English and English as lingua franca. Kachru's inner circle of the three-circle model make way for the outer circle that covers countries such as India, Bangladesh, Malaysia, Singapore, and lots more, which suggests the spread of the language to other countries since the inner circle carries two formidable colonizers. that is, the British and the Americans. This outer circle therefore expanded towards the expanding circle, such as China, Japan, Thailand, and Korea. The dispersal of the English language paved way to new varieties of English, such as World English and English as a lingua franca. Important to note that both World English and English as a lingua franca actually belongs to each side of a coin. What Jenkins tries to stresses here is that both paradigm of World English and English as a lingua franca explores the English language beyond its original mother tongue settings. Although for World English the English language imbibes with the local and ethnicity background, it becomes nativized by developing its own expression as a new user with diverse ethnicity as his background. So how do we explain World English in a better form? In the previous slide, Jenkins mentioned of the Standard English as a benchmark of correctness. This explains the reason why she claims World English has developed through the education system of the outer circle nations. This was further reaffirmed by Ishikawa that World English are educationally institutionalized, non-native, intra-community specific, and indigenized varieties, each having its own linguistic norm. This view by both Jenkins and Ishikawa mirrors similar conclusion by both Wolf and Posenhagen, who adds that World English study focus on the differences between the local identities of the various regional or national varieties of English. So how do we draw the line that separates between World English and English as a lingua franca? Jenkins stresses here that English as a lingua franca defends its role as a means of communication among people who do not share a first language. Those who uses English primarily as lingua franca with non-native English speaker that speaks different mother tongue than their own rather than towards native English speakers. This is a point which Sifakis and Satinla points out that further explains that English as a lingua franca refers to the function of English as a contact language involving non-native English speakers from heterogeneous settings that he or she most familiar to converse with. So how do we explain English as a lingua franca? Jenkins explains that from English as a lingua franca perspectives, correctness should be seen in terms of accommodation to interactants from different socio-lingual-cultural backgrounds. This is where Ishikawa concurs this argument. He adds that because the supremacy of locally established linguistic features impertinent to lingua franca community, both the native language and English as a lingua franca actually mutually coexist to accommodate each other's gap. Therefore, it is now clear to see that, as a result from the dispersal of Standard English, it is clear that World English paradigm is exposed and spread via English as a lingua franca. The usage of the English language is linguistically entwined based on its non-native users. This fact cuts the edge that separates World English and English as a lingua franca, where the latter uses English only as a medium to communicate with non-native English speakers that involves different mother tongue for each speaker. Thank you for listening and have a great day.